Good morning. Welcome to the Coach's Portal. Got my man Ronnie Gatrey over here. Thanks for listening today. It's going to be a little bit just of a conversation this morning. Don't know where it's going to go. Honestly, had some just all over the place this week, and I just wanted to talk.
Cool. Let's do it, man.
One of the thoughts that's been on my heart so much lately, I'm going to read a passage, maybe tell a story, and then we'll just kind of go from there. I feel like this is so prevalent in all of our lives. And one of the biggest things lately that I've been hearing is the word awareness. Is then we can have awareness of how we're reacting in certain situations, or even awareness of how someone else is reacting. It could be our kids. It could be the people we're coaching. They have received something, and then coming out of them is like what we have to be aware of. Because what's coming out of them is what is in them, and we have to figure out how to either put that positive in or that life in, if you will. So I want to read this passage, and then I'll kind of go from there. And it's out of Luke 6:43. It says, "For a good tree does not bear bad fruit, nor does a bad tree bear good fruit. For every tree is known by its own fruit. For men do not gather figs from thorns, nor do they gather grapes from a bramble bush. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good, and an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth evil. For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks." Ooh, kind of makes you feel a little...
I'm tingling a little bit there.
Yeah. So... I don't know why does that even come? Why does like the tingling come when you get it?
I mean, it's to me, it's just like, to me on the surface, it's so simple, you know. Like if you were to illustrate that passage and visualize a tree, you know, just like, okay, well, duh, you know, put water on it and the tree grows. But I think once you start to dissect and think spiritually, emotionally, you know, not in the physical presence of a structural tree, but more so in terms of our hearts. What are we watering ourselves with? You know, pun intended here. What are our influences? What are the things that, like you said, just cause me to think this versus that? So I don't know, just when those two converge, like the simplicity, but also the deep emotional sense, when those converge, it just kind of gives me little tingles.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. It does seem like super simple, and keep it simple, stupid. Maybe the Lord kind of using that, but it is like, okay, if I'm just struggling so much with anxiety or anger with my kids, or just negativity, everything that comes out of my mouth is negative. It's pretty telling what is in my heart at that moment. And the beautiful thing about grace is like, okay, Lord, forgive me. Like it always comes back to this humble card of, you know, you can start over with the Lord. As he says in Lamentations 3, I think his mercies are new every day. But it is very much that awareness of, man, what is coming out of my mouth? And so lately, which I'm not good at actually being, I'm a doer. Like I want to do, and I overdo all the time, and I run myself into the ground, and I cannot be present. Being present is the hardest thing in my life. I'm always thinking about the next thing. But lately, the past couple weeks, Kat, my wife's been encouraging me. She'll wake up at 6 and she does her workout, and then at 6 I have to go sit in my corner chair. It's almost like timeout. But I listen to music. Can
you get her to send a picture? I just want to see what that
is. Send me a timeout. I'm going to send you the picture of the orange chair right there. We got a little feeder outside I like look at. But it's great because my biggest trouble is being present. But the last week, I think I've actually felt the most present that I felt in so long because of the practice of actually being in timeout. It's not just being in timeout, but it is this just listen to music. And that's one of my favorite things to do is just listen to music. Okay. So that's kind of like a good story to where, you know, there's these fruits of the Spirit that we talk about: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, and the ability to be patient can only be achieved through, seems like, actually watering with that on a day-to-day basis. Right. So I don't know if you have any like thoughts on your minds or stories. Does that tie to anything specifically, or?
And it's funny because I know we talked beforehand about something, but just hear that just like set off so many other things. And as you know, I have no problem being transparent or vulnerable. It doesn't faze me because my life is my life, whatever. But I think about like me, right? I think about somebody who's grown up with a low level of self-esteem for most of his life and still struggle with it to a degree today. Not as much as I did maybe 10 years ago or so, but it's really, for me, it's in terms of I have to take time to give myself grace and credit and briefly look back and say, well, at least you're not doing this. At least you got a clear frame of mind. But it's really just, I hate to say testing my faith again, but in growing closer to the Lord, it's really like I can hear more Lord saying, Ronnie, dude, you're mine. Like, you're my child. I got you.
Yeah.
Like, what are you so worried about? Why are you so worried about other things? And getting a little deeper there, I'm a people pleaser. Again, not as much so as I was 10 years ago, but the perceived thoughts of other people ring true in my heart. Yes. And they'll get to my mind, and I'll start trying to anticipate, oh man, if I do this, how are they going to take that? If I do that, how are they going to take this? Let me do this, because if I do this, they'll like it, and we'll all win. And I'll drive myself crazy. Yeah. I don't have my corner chair, but
well, you need a corner chair. But it's like you play out this thing that's going to happen, and you actually think through every single response,
right?
That is there, and then how you will respond.
Yeah.
And so
but Nick, the thing is, in thinking of that tree, the thing that's been watering that is my low self-esteem. Not being able, in years past, again, I'm getting better now. It's a journey, right? But not being able before to know, hey man, I belong to the Lord. Like, I'm okay. I am enough.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. No matter if, I lose all my hair or gain 50 pounds, it doesn't change who I am. I am the Lord's, and that is okay. Now, Nick may not like it if, if I make this decision, but as long as my heart is aligned in the right place and I know that God's got me, Nick will be okay. I'll circle back with Nick at some point down the journey, and we'll go back and laugh. I'm using you as an example, but we'll circle back and we'll deal with whatever friction that was. But in terms of changing the course, no, don't let the fruits of that low self-esteem tree allow you to change the course, if you will. Does that make any sense?
It makes a lot of sense. Okay. I'm kind of like thinking through, you can take this to so many different environments, and it rings true. But you were saying you're a people pleaser, which I am such a people pleaser as well. But this idea of what are you taking in that continues to feed like those things that are going to, like those arguments that you're playing in your mind, whether it's all the media, whether it's the things going on throughout the world, whether it's like it is not the voice of God and that word of identity that you actually believe or you're feeding, that can keep you strong throughout the day, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You're submitting to that poison, like, slowly, and it's real, man.
Yeah. And Nick, something you helped me to really, you've ministered so much to me, more so before we start recording, but you were sharing an example of trying to be all things to everybody, and I had never heard somebody so clearly say it, but essentially, dude, that's God's job, not ours.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And when you were sharing that with me, I was kind of like, dude, am I trying to play God here? Yeah. And realistically, if I'm honest with myself, gosh, you really got me thinking about this chair in the corner. I need it. But if I take time to really think, I'm like, man, everything has been okay. Even those times I thought I was going to let somebody down, it still turned out okay.
Man.
So,
well, the crazy thing, this is going to go a completely different way than I thought it was. But so let's go there. But that idea of letting God be God. close brother said it a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh, this is powerful. I need to press into this because I all the time try to take control, and I want to be in control and not let God be in control. Very simple. Once again, we're going to these simple concepts. Not simple, but simple.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is God will actually say, dude, I'll let you play me. I'll let you do it. I'll let you take control. And guess what happens when you take control? You become anxious. You become like consumed with money, consumed with people's responses, consumed with things you can't control more because you have gained control of them, and you've lost actually who is in control and who you can trust. So I think that's been the hardest thing in my life of like when people are like, don't you think you're operating out of your own strength? They've always asked that. Like I've asked myself that, and I've heard that before of how can you tell when you're operating on your own strength or God is in control? I'm like, okay, well, let me look at some fruits real quick, just in my own heart and mind, because if I feel consumed all the time with anxiety, fear of not having enough, like all of these different things, I actually realize, man, I think I've gained I've taken control. I'm not letting God rule that, because if I actually know that God has been good, he has been faithful, he has provided, and he has been with me every step of the way, there's different fruits. They're like, oh, there's the peace, there's the joy, I know I'll have enough. I've always had enough. I'm the son of the Most High. So I don't know, man, that letting God be God just seems to be something we all struggle with. And even in America, everywhere, we always think that we're in control. We ain't in control.
No.
Even when we think we're in control, we ain't in control. What's our problem?
I mean, are we self-centered?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's the first thing I thought of. Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to come off as self-righteous, because I know I can be self-centered. As much of a people pleaser as I am, I can still be self-centered. I know that. But it just seems like, especially on a social scale, that just seems to be the one common denominator across the board right now. Well, what's in it for me? Well, what am I going to get? What is it going to do for me? And it goes back to what you're saying, like, where are you taking your focus? Is your focus shifting shifting away from God? Obviously. But one of the things, I'm sorry, I'm gonna just say this because it came into my heart when you were saying it. But once we decide to shift our focus, right? And you talked about the anxiety, the worrying if you have enough, the worrying if everybody around you's happy. In my mind, I think all that leads to combustion.
Dude.
Emotional combustion, right? And then because you can only take so much. We're only here to take so much. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But if we're looking to self and trying to serve selfish needs, self-centered needs, eventually, yeah, you're right, we're going to combust. So I guess I'm going to ask you this, but for me, what are some practical ways that we can recenter ourselves back to what matters, back to what God wants for us? Just in your opinion. I'm not looking for gospel or doctrine here.
Well, I mean, we always break it down into those 3 simple points, right? So
I'm flipping it on you, dude.
Flipping it on me.
I didn't even mean to do that.
So I think there is this, there's that verse that he says, my burden is light, yoke is easy. What is, something like that, so take on, pretty much give it to Jesus. His burden is light. Now I'm like, okay, this life's hard. But number 1, it seems to be that acknowledgement of let God be God. Okay. Let him be who he says he is. And he says, I am. And so I think that just starting out of, all right, God, you say you're God and I trust you. And thank you for being God.
Yeah.
And so I actually have to let you be God. Now I am gifted. You've given me certain things, certain responsibilities, and I want to leverage those to the best of my ability. So please show me how to do that. But I'm going to let God be God. I think too is, we were talking about the tree earlier, and one thing that leads to a tree being healthy is water, right? Like water and sunlight. So I'm just kind of like, I see just this picture. I think when we were in the garden at the very beginning, I've heard this before, and I don't know if this is actually right.
Okay.
But you drank from the living water that was there. There was like garden, you just drank and you were being filled all the time. And so I think of that from God, of what are you putting into your body every day? Are you taking in the water of the one who gives life? Because he is the one that said, here are the fruits. Okay. He is the fruit giver, the love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. He's actually like, you can't have these truly apart from me giving them to you.
Right.
You can go out and say like artificially produce them, you can say like, I want community. So I'm just going to do a whole lot of people together and, look different. But when they leave, they're going to go their separate ways, and you really don't have true community.
Right.
So I think it's just like, all right, what does that actually look like for my life on a day-to-day basis? Do I take in the water of life? And if you are constantly taking in what's media all the time and hate and show, and you need to examine like, hey, is this something maybe I can just look into?
Right.
Let me be aware a little bit.
Yeah.
And I guess the third is just, man, I'm still trying to figure out who I am and what I need.
You're not alone though. You're not alone, man.
And that's probably the hardest thing, right? Is to, I'm fortunate enough to be married to my wife, and she teaches me so much about humanity because she's so different than me. She has so much ability to be present. She's so funny. I'm not funny. Okay. I really am. She's funny, and she's a joyful person. I'm a robot. I'm a process person. So boom, 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 boom. She's like, enjoy life. And then she always engages nature and God, and I would never do that. And so like all of these things help me experience like me in a way that I can barely touch. So all that to say is I'm a doer, back to at the very beginning. So to actually slow down and be present is what I need to not feel like anxious and feel all of my receiving of reward through doing. Like I can do that all the time, but that's not really what I need. I need to be present. That's what I want to be. It's like it eludes me all the time, but the only way to do that is to sit in my corner chair and time out.
But yeah.
And then people that are good at being present, it seems like they actually need to engage more in fitness or doing, because they're going to want to just kind of be isolated. I don't know. These are just thoughts.
I think it's so funny because as you shared about you and your wife, my wife and I we're the same, but it's kind of flipped. My wife is the more process oriented, do, check, and I'm just like, man, let's just go have a good time. But my wife tells me on several occasions, Ronnie, we can't have a good time all the time. And I'm like,
work
why
some
not?
point.
Yeah, somebody's got to work.
Yep. Hey,
but dude,
why can't we do both? We do both.
But I think, and you've gotten so many thoughts. I'm trying to translate the thought from the heart to here to say it, but I think that's part of the beauty of marriage, and that's why God holds marriage so high, just because of things like what you just said. My wife and I spiritually, and not spiritually, but like we're different. Emotionally, we're different. We have different needs. But man, my love for her opens my heart to a different type of emotional need. And I, like you said, I learned. I'm like, okay, well, all right, eventually, yes, Ronnie, we're going to have to get something done, So, but I think all that goes into account. That takes our focus off of just me. I've opened my heart to my spouse in this example. Let me understand her viewpoint. Let me look at things through her lens. Yeah. Let me see if I can learn and I can evolve. And I think the Lord places people like that, not just in a marriage, but just in life in general, to help us kind of shape us, mature us, and give us some resemblance of balance to some degree, but also realizing that the Lord has provided these opportunities. And I think in a process standpoint, that takes all the glory back to him. And if we're engaging all these opportunities, I think, this is just my thought, this is not gospel, but I think that gives all reverence back to God, thus helping us keep our eyes on the prize and take it off of ourselves, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
That sounded really complicated.
No, it was not complicated. It was, man, it's so good. I think it's going back to that humility and empathy to not only put on someone else's lens, but to get your ego out of the way.
Yes.
To hear, to listen to someone. Fortunately, we have spouses that we're that close to, but there's so many relationships that this happens in. And that's just powerful, man. Yeah. I think, like pulling it all together, it takes so much humility, but in the beginning of the morning or start of the day, you just have to realize that God is God.
Yeah.
You got to let him be it. And if you don't, he will let you take it on yourself, and you will produce a fruit that actually is not good. You know why? Because you're not God.
Right.
And only God can give fruit that is pure and good.
Amen.
And then you got to go to the point too of like, am I taking in the good water? The good water is that of which he gives. And that looks different for each person, but I think the more and more aware we are in our day-to-day of who we are becoming and what we need. And if you're always trying, like me, let's give you an example. If I'm always like, I just need to work a little bit more and I'll feel better. Guess what? That's not really what it is. It's not that.
Right.
Okay, sometimes cool, get some work done. Yes, get work done. But at the end of the day, if you're not able to be and not, always efficiency. Guess what? Sitting in a corner chair and just sitting there is not efficient. It is not efficient, but it is essential. So it is essential to wholeness and that fruit. Because he's like, yeah, because you ain't God. I'm the most. If I wanted to be as efficient, I would. Yeah, he's like, I'd do what I want to do.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, man. I don't know. If you got
one last thing. I'm going back to the chair. I'm just curious, right? So the chair for you, it's way outside of your comfort zone because I'm sure, as you're approaching that chair and you're approaching, the opportunity to have that time, you probably got hundreds of things going on right here. You really got to go outside of yourself to really just force yourself to sit down and just take in this time to listen to music and have your time. Tell me how that is. I want to know, like, how is that process? Is it like a battle in your head, or is like, I don't know if you put headphones on or whatever, or when the music starts, you're able to just kind of.
It's you have a lot of grace for yourself because you like, it's got to be done a certain way, or this person is able. Yeah, I got a friend who's incredible. Sutton's his name, and I always like compare myself to him praying because I'm like, he's like a great, like, he can just be with the Lord. And I'm like, if I'm not doing it like that, I'm doing it wrong. And that's just not true. That's accusation. That's from the devil. But we feel that.
Right.
It's like, this is dumb. I just can't. All I want to do is get on my phone and do emails so I can maximize time and so I can be more efficient. And then he's like, dude, just sit. Just listen to music. And then, so music kind of helps me just more. I encounter God through music, and it's not tied to my performance. So I've found over time that the more things that I can do, that I encounter God through music, because I'm not gifted in music, and people just ministers to my heart, and I don't have to perform in it, which I'm big on doing and performing and getting things done, kind of with an athlete background. It was like, that's what you were going for. And so I've found that those things are actually the most essential to my soul. Gotcha. And so in the chair, it's extremely hard, and it's always like a grace for myself. And like when I do fail, it's like, okay, I'm not trying to be this person. I'm just trying to be here. And it's been great. Yeah. But it is hard. And I think when people start something that's new, I do feel like one of the biggest things they think is they're doing it wrong.
Mm.
And it's not about
Myself
that.
included.
Yeah, it's just like God's just like, man, I just want to be with you. Let's just hang, just sit and hang. And so in process, I think that's the biggest thing. It's just in process, and I think trusting that process, that God wants that for me, and that once again getting my pride out of the way, that if I get these things done, then it'll be better. And it's like, man, things will get done.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answered the
Yes,
question,
absolutely.
but it is a definite harder thing that always feel, honestly, the peace of after it's done, just the thankfulness for it. And it fleshes itself out of, I've been able to be more present with my kids. I don't feel like I have to get somewhere. Jeez. It's like, oh, because he filled me this morning and I was present there. So therefore the fruit is being able to be present.
Right.
Wow.
Man.
Simple. So yeah, I don't know. It's good. Yeah. Thank you so much, bro, for the dialogue
Thank you.
this morning.
I think I got more out of this than you.
It's cool to process, and I hope that people, listening in, just experience that one of the reasons we do this is just to remember God, process together, get it out, and just say, man, he is near. Like he wants to, he is leading us. He is talking to us. He's just see our growth in life. So hopefully that blesses someone this morning. And yeah, thanks for joining.